All rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning and welcome everyone to this initial appearance hearing. Madam Court Officer, could you please call the case?
Good morning, Your Honor. This is file KSC BC 2023-12, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Hashim Thaçi, Bashkim Smakaj, Isni Kilaj, Fadil Fazliu, and Hayreddin Kuchi.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Before we start, I would like to give the photographer the opportunity to take some pictures. Please proceed. You have 1.5 minutes to take pictures. And it is my understanding that Mr. Thaçi doesn't wish to be on a close picture.
That's correct, Your Honour.
So please proceed that way. Thank you, Madam Photographer. Before asking those present in the courtroom to introduce themselves, I would like to remind everyone of the rules that must be observed at all times in order to facilitate the smooth conduct of the proceedings. Please ensure that you activate your microphone before speaking and that you switch it off as soon as you are finished. Talk slowly and clearly, as we have interpretation from and to Albanian and Serbian. Wait 5 seconds before responding to me or a party in order to allow the interpreters to finish the interpretation. I would also like to remind you that certain information in this case is subject to confidentiality. Confidential information shall not be disclosed in open session. If any party wishes to refer to or discuss any confidential information, please request to go into private session. Now I would kindly ask the parties to introduce themselves, starting with the Specialist Prosecutor's Office.
Good morning, Your Honor. Josh Hafetz on behalf of the Specialist Prosecutor's Office, and I'm joined this morning by the Specialist Prosecutor Kim West, who's seated behind me, and to my left, Gaia Pergolo and Lena Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Now the defense, please.
Good morning, Your Honour. My name is Nina Tavakoli and I'm Specialist Counsel for Mr. Hashim Thaçi, and I'm assisted today by Lirim Grzyewski, Senior Analyst in our team.
Thank you, Counsel. For the record, I note that your client, Mr. Thaçi, is also present in the courtroom. And I will now turn to the registry, please.
Good morning, Your Honor, and good morning, colleagues. Jonas Nilsson, Deputy Registrar. I'm here together with Whitney Price, Legal Counsel. Thank you.
And last for the record, I'm Marjorie Massalo, pre-trial judge for this case. The accused is appearing today for the first time before the specialist chambers following confirmation of the indictment against him on 29th of November 2024. Mr. Thaçi, could you please stand up? Could you please state your full name?
Microphone is not turned on.
Thank you.
Hashim Thaçi.
Hashim Thaçi.
What is your date and place of birth?
24 April 68.
or what are your citizenships?
I am a citizen of Kosovo.
A profession.
Politician.
Politician.
Mr. Thaçi, before we proceed any further, I have to make sure that you can follow the proceedings in a language that you understand and speak. Can you confirm that you understand and speak Albanian?
Yes.
By this, I'm satisfied that you can follow the proceedings in Albanian, a language that you understand and speak, in accordance with Rule 92 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. If at any moment in the course of the proceedings you are not receiving interpretation, please draw my attention to it immediately. Your microphone, I assume. Yeah. Thank you. I will now give a short procedural history to introduce today's initial hearing. On 29th November 2024, in my capacity as pretrial judge, I partially confirmed the indictment submitted by the specialist prosecutor against Mr. Hashim Thaçi, Bashkim Smakai, Hisni Kilai, Fadil Faziliu, and Hayreddin Kuchi, charging Mr. Thaçi with 3 counts of attempt to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by participating in the common action of a group, 4 counts of violation of the secrecy of proceedings, and 4 counts of contempt of court. I also issued an arrest warrant for Mr. Thaçi on the same day. On 5th of December 2024, the registrar served Mr. Thaçi at the detention facilities of the Kosovo Specialist Chambers in The Hague with the arrest warrant, the confirmed indictment, and the decision on his arrest warrant translated into Albanian. On 6th of December 2024, I issued the decision setting today's date for the initial appearance. Now, allow me to recall the specific purpose of this initial appearance for the benefit of Mr. Thaçi. Today's hearing, Mr. Thaçi, is not a trial. No evidence will be presented or debated, nor will the guilt or innocence of the accused be discussed or decided. The very purpose of this initial appearance hearing is regulated by Article 39(5) of the law and Rule 92 of the rules. According to these provisions, as the pretrial judge, I shall have the charges in the confirmed indictment read to the accused, confirm that the accused understands the indictment, satisfy myself that the rights of the accused, in particular his right to counsel, are respected, and inform the accused that within 30 days of today's hearing, he will be called upon to admit guilt or plead not guilty on each charge set out in the indictment. If the accused wishes to do so, he may also immediately admit guilt or plead not guilty. And finally, I shall set other dates as appropriate in performing my functions as pretrial judge. These are the matters which will be addressed in turn during today's initial appearance. Should either party wish to discuss any other matter not expressly foreseen in the context of the initial appearance, I invite you to do so through a filing in written form. First, Mr. Thaçi, may I invite you to please stand up. May I ask you to confirm that you have received the confirmed indictment in a language that you understand and speak?
Yes.
Mr. Thaçi, before Madam Court Officer reads the confirmed charges against you, I wish to remind you that this is not the time to contest them, but simply to acknowledge your understanding thereof. You will have the opportunity to challenge the charges with the assistance of your counsel. I will now ask Madam Court Officer to read out the charges in the confirmed indictment as foreseen in Article 39(5) of the law and Rule 92(2)(b) of the rules.
Thank you, Your Honor. In the confirmed indictment, the Specialist Prosecutor charges Mr. Hashim Thaçi with Counts 1 to 3, attempting to obstruct official persons, in particular SPO prosecutors and investigators, in performing official duties by participating in the common action of 3 separate groups, and as the leader or organizer of these groups, punishable under Article 401, 2, 3, and 5 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15.2 of the law. Counts 4 to 6, violating secrecy of proceedings through unauthorized revelation of secret information, punishable under Article 392.1 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15.2 of the law. Count 7, violating secrecy of proceedings through unauthorized revelation of the identity of a protected witness, punishable under Article 392.2 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15.2 of the law. And counts 8 to 11, contempt of court, punishable under Article 393 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15.2 of the law. 2. These offenses were committed between at least 26 June and 2 November 2023. 3. In relation to these offenses, there is a well-grounded suspicion that Mr. Hashim Thaçi is criminally responsible pursuant to Article 16.3 of the law for a. Committing the offenses of attempted obstruction of official persons in performing official duties, violating secrecy of proceedings, and contempt of court under counts 1 to 8 and counts 10 to 11 pursuant to Article 17 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. B. Inciting Mr. Bashkim Smakaj, Mr. Isni Kilaj, and Mr. Fadil Fazliu to commit the offenses of attempted obstruction of official persons in performing official duties in the context of their respective groups under counts 1 to 3, pursuant to Article 32.1 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. C. Agreeing to commit with Mr. Bashkim Smakaj, Mr. Isni Kilaj, Mr. Fadil Fazliu, in the context of their respective groups, the offenses of attempted obstruction of official persons in performing official duties under counts 1 to 3, pursuant to Article 35 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. And D. Agreeing to commit with Mr. Hayreddin Kuçi the offense of contempt of court under count 9, pursuant to Article 35 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Mr. Thaçi, did you understand the charges contained in the confirmed indictment as read out to you by Madam Court Officer? Thank you. The law on the specialist chambers and the rules of procedure and evidence guarantee you, Mr. Thaçi, a number of rights, and I will read out the most important ones, especially those relevant to at this specific stage of the proceedings. You shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. In the determination of the charges against you, you are entitled to a fair and public hearing, subject to any measure ordered for the protection of victims and witnesses. You have the right to be informed promptly and in detail, in a language which you understand, of the nature and cause of the charges against you. You have the right to have adequate time and facilities for the preparation of your defense and to communicate with a counsel of your own choosing. You have the right to be tried within a reasonable time. You have the right to be tried in your presence and to defend yourself through your counsel. You have the right to have counsel assigned to you and without payment if you do not have sufficient means to pay for it. You have the right to receive the free assistance of an interpreter if you cannot understand or speak the language used in the court. You have the right not to be compelled to testify against yourself or to admit guilt. You have the right to remain silent, and no adverse inference shall be drawn from your silence. And you have the right not to be detained for an unreasonable period of time prior to the opening of the case, to request review of decisions on your detention, and to appeal such decisions directly before the Court of Appeals. Mr. Thaçi, I have read to you the most important rights that you enjoy in accordance with the applicable legal framework of the specialist chambers. Do you understand these rights?
Paul.
Yes.
I wish also to inform you that according to Article 21(5) of the law, you may not represent yourself because you are currently in detention. Representation by specialist counsel is therefore mandatory. I take note that you are represented by counsel Thaçi, and I'm therefore satisfied that the accused is presently represented by counsel. I will now turn to the right of the accused to enter an immediate plea, if any, in accordance with Rule 92 of the rules. Mr. Thaçi, as already mentioned, within 30 days from today, you will be called upon to admit guilt or plead not guilty on the charges in the indictment. If you wish to do so, you may choose to immediately admit guilt or plead not guilty. I would therefore like to ask you if you have had the opportunity to discuss the charges in the confirmed indictment with your counsel, and if you are prepared to enter a plea at this time.
Your Honor, distinguished participants, you know that it's 4 years now that I'm being faced with another court proceeding, and that we have heard misinterpretation of the history of our nation in the fight for its independence. If from 1980 to today, it's a voluminous process. I know that Kosovo society, my family and myself are eagerly looking forward to the conclusion of this process to put in itself justice. Because we believe in justice. 2-3 days ago, I was suddenly accused of the new charges pressed against me by the office of the specialist prosecutor. I know that Kosovo is on the eve of the general election, but I'm not part of this electoral race. I pose no political risk to anyone. Therefore, today also, I say that I believe in and respect the Constitution and the laws of Kosovo. So therefore, I appeal to everyone, wherever you are, in this hall, to respect the Constitution and the laws of Kosovo, because the specialist chambers are an outcome of the institutions of the Republic of Kosovo. Because of other commitments, I had no possibility to discuss, in essence, the confirmed indictment. Therefore, I will plead in due time as set out in the Constitution and legal framework. Thank you.
So no plea today. Thank you, Mr. Thaçi. I'm just informed that your answer to the question whether you understand the charges has not been recorded on the transcript because your microphone was not on. Could you please repeat your response to that question?
And the second,
I have not read all of them, so I have to read them before I can say I understand them.
Well, do you want a break to read them?
ja, då kan jag ju.
No, it's not necessary.
Perhaps I could just seek some instructions. Your Honour, if we could please take a short break, I'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, we will now break for 10 minutes. Is that sufficient,
Thank you, Your
Council?
Honour.
All right, and we will reconvene then at 10. Now adjourned.
All rise.
We are back in session.
And Your Honor, if I can confirm, we're in open session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Mr. Thaçi, so we took a break to allow you to discuss with your counsel on this question, which is whether you understood the charges that had been read out by Madam Court Officer a few minutes ago to you. And if I'm not mistaken, your response to that was that you did understand at the time, and when I repeated the question to you because your microphone was not on, you gave us another response. Could you please clarify what your position is and your response to that question now is?
Jag kan gå på toa.
I understood them.
So, considering that Mr. Thaçi has not entered a plea at this time, I would like to ask the parties to provide their preliminary views, if any, on the scheduling of a further hearing for the entry of a plea. I just want to make it clear that this hearing should take place within 30 days from today, meaning by 7th of January 2025, and I note that this falls within the court recess. Do you have any submissions to make in this regard, starting with the defense for Mr. Thaçi? Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honour. The defence is content to return on the 7th of January to enter a plea, for Mr. Thaçi to enter a plea.
Thank you, Counsel. For the Prosecutor's Office?
Your Honor, we're available at any time to return for the entry of a plea.
All right, thank you. A further hearing for the entry of a plea will be scheduled in due course. Thus. Let us now move to the working language of the proceedings. In the decision setting the date for today's initial appearance, I invited the parties to make oral submissions at today's hearing on the working language to be used in the present case, according to Rule 8 of the rules. Could the parties indicate their preference for the record, starting with the specialist prosecutors?
Our preference would be English, Your Honor. Thank you.
This is well noted. Thank you. For the defense?
English as well, thank you.
Thank you. I will thus issue a decision on this matter in due course as well. In the decision setting the date for today's initial appearance, I also indicated that I intend to schedule the first status conference in this case, pursuant to Rule 96 of the rules, on Tuesday, the 17th of December 2024 at 2. I have also invited you to provide oral submissions at today's initial appearance on whether counsels and or the accused intend to participate to the status conference in person or via video conference. Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honour. As you're aware, I am co-counsel in case number 6, and the evidence for that case closed on Friday. Due to the late notice of the scheduling of this hearing, I am unavailable next week to attend a status conference. The first available date that I would have, bearing in mind the judicial recess, would be the 17th of January. However, if the court is minded to proceed to a status conference next week, Mr. Thaçi will need to appoint a second counsel, Luka Mistic, who will then be able to attend via video link.
All right. This is noted. For the specialist prosecutor?
We're available to be in person here next week, Judge.
Thank you. You will receive a scheduling order in due course. That will also include the agenda. And in that scheduling order, I will also provide guidelines on the requirements for attending the status conference via video conference. Now, in relation to your detention, Mr. Thaçi, I recall that based on the finding of a well-grounded suspicion that you committed the offenses that were just read to you, an arrest warrant was issued against you on 29th of November 2024. Pursuant to Article 41(6)(b) of the law, your arrest was found necessary based on the existence of articulable grounds to believe that you are a flight risk, you may obstruct the progress of the criminal proceedings, and you may repeat said offenses. I also recall that you were served upon your arrest with the recent decision on request for arrest warrant and related matters, translated into Albanian, together with a confirmed indictment. Now I would like to know whether the defense wishes to make submissions on the issue on detention.
Your Honour, because of the fact that my client is remanded in custody in respect of 06 case, to some extent this is a moot process. However, I would like to point out for the record a couple of points. I understand that Your Honour has made an independent assessment of whether there are arguable grounds that, for example, that Mr. Thaçi is a flight risk, and I wish to put on record that the trial panel in case 6 has never considered Mr. Thaçi a flight risk. He voluntarily surrendered to the jurisdiction of this court. He stepped down as president to do so, and he is now remanded in custody on case 6. The defence also notes its concern that the pre-trial judge makes findings of fact in the context of her decision, for example, at paragraph 48 in F0037, about issues that go to the heart of the issues in dispute in case 6, such as my client's role in the KLA, for example, that he was a founding member. The defence underscores its concern that the SPO is attempting to litigate this case at the same time as it is also litigating case 6 against my client, and it raises concern at this stage that and it puts the chamber on notice that there should not be bleeding over from one case to another. For example, Your Honour's finding in relation to a direct matter issue in these proceedings is problematic. That said, the defence recognises that because Mr. Thaçi is remanded in custody on this case, any application for provisional release is moot at this stage, but it wishes to preserve its position and rejects the findings of Your Honour in this regard.
Thank you, Councillor Tavakoli. Does the SPO wish to take the floor?
Just briefly, Your Honor. I'm going to rely in the main on our prior submissions on the issue of detention in this case, understanding that Your Honor has made the point in your decision F00037 that you must make independent detention findings in this case as opposed to the other case, which I'll refer to going forward as case 6. I'll just point out that all of the required findings for detention are met here under 41.6. One, there's been a well-grounded suspicion, as confirmed in the indictment, as read out in the 11 charges you've noticed to Mr. Thaçi, that he has committed multiple offenses while he's been detained here. So the first prong of the test is met. I also submit that, as Your Honor has found, all three, and I'll get to the flight risk in a moment, all three of the factors, which are all alternatives for grounds for detention, all three of them are met here, 1, 2, and 3 of 41.6b. I'll note specifically in regard to counsel's comments about risk of flight, this is an independent inquiry in this case about whether Mr. Thaçi presents a risk of flight now, here, today, on these charges. And the answer is resoundingly yes. While detained since the beginning of case 6, he's engaged in what is found in the decision as a persistent pattern of obstructive behavior. He's noted as and charged and confirmed now in an indictment as the leader of a pattern of obstructive behavior, specifically targeting numerous witnesses in his ongoing trial. This is not a bleeding over. It is bringing charges against Mr. Thaçi for the direct interference in that case, independent of that case. The other two factors are also met for the reasons Your Honor outlined. He poses a significant risk of engaging in further crimes directed at these proceedings, which is little I-2 of 41.6, and of committing future crimes. He's demonstrated for over a year now that he will continue to commit crimes while detained. There's every reason that he would commit those crimes while not detained. It would be a much greater risk to the proceedings in this case and the other case if Mr. Thaçi were released. So all three of those factors are met and require and necessitate his detention in this case.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. I'm turning to the Councillor Tavakoli. Do you wish to get the floor one more time or on this matter?
No, as I've said before, I think this exercise is academic. Thank you.
This is on the record, Council. I will just ask you a few minutes. I will stay in the courtroom and I will issue an oral ruling on detention in a few minutes. All right. I will now issue my oral ruling on detention. I have taken note of the specialist prosecutor's position that Mr. Thaçi remain in detention. Defense counsel, I have taken note of your position and submission that you refrain from making any substantial submissions today, considering that this is an academic exercise. Therefore, having considered the parties' submission, I determine that Mr. Thaçi shall remain in detention. The reasons for Mr. Thaçi's detention are the same as set out in the decision on arrest warrant and related matters. more specifically paragraphs 43 and 45 to 55, which shall be read together with the present ruling. Mr. Thaçi, I will review the reasons for your detention within 2 months or at an earlier time upon request or a change in circumstances as provided in Article 41.10 of the law and Rule 57.2 of the rules. Defense counsel, should you wish to file submissions on the next regular review of detention, please do so by no later than Wednesday, 15th of January 2025. Responses and replies will follow the timeline set out in Rule 76 of the rules. Should the defense decide not to file any submissions by the aforementioned time limit, I order the SPO to file submissions on the next regular review of Mr. Thaçi's detention by no later than Tuesday, 21st of January 2025. The defense shall respond, if it so wishes, by no later than Tuesday, 28th of January 2025. I will not entertain a reply. Lastly, Mr. Thaçi, you have the right to appeal today's ruling on your detention directly before the Court of Appeals within 10 days, as provided in Article 45.2 of the law and Rule 58 and 117 of the rules. This concludes my oral ruling. At this point, I would like to ask the parties if there is any other issue strictly related to today's hearing that they would like to raise.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honour.
All right, Mr. Thaçi's initial appearance hearing. This concludes Mr. Thaçi's initial appearance hearing. I wish to thank the parties and the registry for their attendance and, of course, the interpreters, stenographers, audiovisual technicians, and security personnel for their assistance. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise.